Right, got distracted by some other things, so it's a different day. It's still quite sunny and not as hot. See down here we have the new old shock absorber and all the official Renault paperwork to do with changing, which is taking the windscreen wipers off, to take the scuttle panel off, and then all this to undo it. So it's going to be fun. Right, so we have 1, 2, 3 bolts to come off first. Right, so here we go, trying to disassemble the car. You have to sort of prime the windscreen washer motors first to free them up, and then take the caps off, take the screws off. Then you actually need a special tool from Renault to do this, or as I found out, just sort of hit it and lever it until the spring pressure comes off. Right, that's them off. Surprisingly harder than I thought it was going to be, so somebody already had a go at that one. Full of crud. Next step, taking all this off. This bit's actually pretty easy, just 3 T20 torques and then lever out this entire section. Right, so that's that off, and more gross and gunge. It's actually the bottom of the windscreen goes all the way down underneath here. It's the wiper arms. You can see one shock absorber cup. And this just lifts off. This has been glued on, this has never come off. So this is the original one. There's the other. Yeah, this is turning into quite the adventure. Found an allocator that fits, giving this a good hoover out. So let's figure out what's now needed next. Right, so we've got to take wheel speed sensor off, wheel speed sensor bracket off, although that does sort of appear attached on the old one, so maybe we'll leave that off. And then those bolts, and then attach whatever this is, hub carrier, to something to stop it dropping off. It's going to be fun. And that was a good prediction, because this is about to be a huge amount of bodily effort to get all this out. So as expected, these are the problem ones. Interesting phenomenon that, there you go, there's an 18mm one. That goes on that fine. Oh, it goes on that one now, never mind. It wasn't going on that earlier, I guess I've knocked all the rust off. So using the impact wrench on one side and this on the other has worked, but it's now got to the point where there's actually a 19mm. I have an 18mm socket. An impact one, so we'll use old muscles. Slight problem. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 15, 17, 19. I need the 18. Look at some big ones here. 14, 15, 17, 19. Where's the 18? Why is this an 18? It's definitely an 18, because that's nicely. I mean, 19 does fit, but it's got some rattle on it. So doing this on the hottest day of the year so far was a very sweaty experience, especially with 1mm wrong size spanners. So don't forget to like and subscribe, because it lets the algorithm know that these videos are good, and then you'll see more of them. Oh, that was a fight. So yeah, don't have another 18mm thing, so I have to be very carefully, gingerly do it with the torque wrench, just with some leverage. And the 18mm on the good side to not try and strip these heads any more than the gun had. Actually, inside of them are pretty good. Just needs a wire brush and clean up. Right. So that's completely out now. Nothing attaching it here. Time to do the top. Oh, that's a bit of black spray paint I sprayed on there to see what it would look like. Right. Probably should have undone the top first so it comes out. Now it's just going to fall out. Good news is this seems pretty attached. In the end, I just decided to whap this off with the impact wrench and catch it as it fell out. Right, so this is the one that's come off, and this is the new one. First glance, that one's obviously mucky, but there's the problem. One snapped spring, one intact spring. And I just used the big Googa to get it all off. Assembly is the reverse of disassembly, so just putting this all back in, fighting with the bottom. Had to give it a few bits of tactical persuasion with a rubber hammer, with inevitable results.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Yeah, that was quite painful, and you'll see in a second what happened. Yep. Managed to hit myself in the head. Alright, so this new one is back in. These bolts are just in here to hold it in place. Let's clip back on. Gonna wire brush the end of these, grease them up. That looks a bit better. That looks a bit better. So I think we shall tighten all these up to torque spec. Then drop it back down to put everything back on so we can see what it actually sits like before putting all that back on, because that's going to be a pain. So yeah, made a right royal mess here, and have to tidy all this away just to be able to lower the car back down. So get the jack out, jack up a little, just so it's off the axle stands, put the wheels back on, lower it down on this side, turn it on the other side, and then torque everything back up with the torque wrench so the wheels don't fall off, which is always good to have not happen. Well, it's back on, and it is slightly higher on that side, but I wouldn't say it's equal, but maybe that's just the bit of ground it's on. If you remember last time, it was what, three fingers? Now it's little finger, all of them, right into the arch of my hand. And on this side, I can't tell if you can see that because it's so bright. It's a little bit more, but are you even going to focus? I can tell that's not focused. There we go. It's about the same. Yeah. Not put the scuttle panel back or anything, so it's all exposed and all going to rain down there. If it rains again. When. So we'll put that back on in a bit and roll it around a bit, see whether it's less crunchy. Right, it is a bit later on now. That really hurts. So now it's time to put all that back on here. So this shock absorber tower is back on here. This one is sitting a bit prouder, but I've had a poke around the internet and there seems to be no consensus whether this is good or bad. There's plenty of photos of cars like that, but there is actually, if you look at the bit underneath, the cup underneath, so that is pretty solid. It's very rusty. I mean, I could take the one off the old one, put the top on. No. Also, it gives me a bit better access to look at what's going on around here, so I can actually see this extra pipe now that comes out of somewhere and goes into there. I wonder, maybe that's split. But once no, let's do this now once we've got the space. Right, so we whip this off. Pretty grotty in there. Not entirely convinced that was actually connected, but we've given that a good clean out. So we'll give this a run. Still don't think that's going to do anything, but can't hurt. Nope, no difference, but you can definitely hear when it goes to stutter there is a big noise. So I do wonder whether it's somewhat related to the air. So we'll put all this back together again and then carry on putting the skull panel back on. Right, so enough fanning around with that. Time to put this all back together. Done. Wow, what do we have here? Again, assembly is the reverse of disassembly, so we put this all back on, we put the T20 Torx screws in, we clip all the panel bits back in. This all went actually pretty well considering the amount of car I had to disassemble to do this. I was expecting it to be way worse. And at this point, just put the rubber back on, give it nice and clean, put the windscreen wipers back on, tighten them back up, tighten it enough so then we can at least test it. Right. That is those on, so where have we put the keys? Moment of truth. Well, I was not expecting them to work first time. Right, I'll torque these up to the right spec. Right, so I've rocked it backwards and forwards a bit on the drive a few times, and it is now sitting pretty straight, so happy with that.